Republican Senator Ron Johnson made it very clear that he does not believe that women should get any help with childcare in order to be able to go back to work. So on one hand, this man thinks everyone needs to get off their lazy asses and get back to the workplace. There's a labor shortage, it's unacceptable. But when it comes to mothers who don't have up to $18,000 a year to spend on childcare, he wants to offer zero help. And of course, I'm sure I don't have to tell you that Senator Ron Johnson is not in favor of reproductive rights. He is anti-choice for women. And so he wants to force women who get pregnant to bring that pregnancy to term. He wants to provide absolutely no support for women, especially if they can't afford childcare and want to go back to work. This is Republican 101. Welcome to America. Now, his latest statements were made on WKBT. This is a local platform over in Wisconsin. And here's what he said. People decide to have families. He said this, people decide to have families and become parents. That's something they need to consider when they make that choice. I've never really felt it was society's responsibility to take care of other people's children. Oh, that's fascinating. That's fascinating. So when it's convenient for Senator Ron Johnson to make a statement about choice, he'll make it. But when push comes to shove, and when it comes to earning brownie points with evangelical voters, he'll definitely tell them, no, I'm anti-choice. I want to force women to bring to term pregnancies that they don't want. I mean, it's hilarious to hear him talk about choice. Now, when discussing the impact of repealing Roe v. Wade, that's essentially the Supreme Court ruling, of course, that made abortion legal in the country. He said that in regard to it being repealed, I don't view that as a huge threat to women's health. I think things would be just fine. Would they? Would they be just fine? So I just want to understand something. What would happen if women don't have childcare, need to go to work, have no support for their children? Do they just leave the kids alone at home? Is that what he's advocating for? Now, if you think that's where he stopped in regard to reproductive rights, he's actually put some action behind his words. Last year, for instance, Johnson co-sponsored the Pain Capable Unborn Child Act, which would ban abortions happening 20 weeks after fertilization. And look, some people might think, well, that seems reasonable. 20 weeks is a long time. Banning abortions after 20 weeks doesn't seem like a big deal. I disagree with that point, mostly because it is, of course, a slippery slope. People hate slippery slope arguments, except for the fact that this is a perfect example of one. Let's go to the next graphic where Johnson joined 43 of his Senate Republican colleagues and signed on to an amicus brief in Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization that urged the court to uphold Mississippi's law that banned abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy. They want to outlaw abortion. Let's just be abundantly clear about it. So he is claiming that women have a choice to have children, and they should make that choice in the most educated way possible, thinking about the future ramifications of it, while we're living in an environment where various states, especially red states, are rolling back reproductive rights, essentially forcing women, the most vulnerable, economically vulnerable women, to have children. Force them to have children, provide absolutely no support, and then point your finger at them and call them absolute bums because they didn't go back to the workplace. Republican 101. Listen, we have a lot of critique and criticism for the Democratic Party on this show, mostly because Democrats are now captured by the same corporate interests that the Republican Party has long been captured by. But make no mistake about it, the Republican Party is full of garbage, and this is a perfect example of it. Force women to bring to term a pregnancy they don't want and then abandon them and their children. What are women supposed to do? You want them back in the workplace? Either pay up or shut up. Either offer the support necessary so families can thrive in this country, or shut your mouth about family values. I'm so sick of Republican men talking about how important unborn babies are, how much they care about those embryos and zygotes, so much. Now, fact of the matter is they don't care about them at all because we have children starving in this country. We have children suffering in this country. We have parents who desperately need support so they can ensure that their children live well and thrive. But these are the Republicans, this is the party that always turns their back on them. Always. It's just absolutely sick. Now, I also want to just quickly note that Johnson is touching on something that continues to be a huge problem in the United States, especially when you compare the United States to other developed countries. Other developed countries have a more robust support system, a robust social safety net in place to ensure that children grow up healthy, that parents have the support that they need. In the United States, we rely heavily on the market to determine the cost of childcare, which is a complete and utter disaster. It actually ends up being incredibly expensive, inefficient, and the people who decide to work as childcare workers are really underpaid. And I'll give you the evidence for that in just a second. But before we get to it, how bad is it? How much does childcare cost in the United States? Center-based childcare costs have actually spiked 41%, according to a report from LendingTree, which analyzed data from a September 2020 report from the Center for American Progress and Childcare Aware of America. That's $14,117 compared to $9,977 before the pandemic. Now, why is that? Why has childcare costs just spiked in such extreme ways? Well, it has a lot to do with what the pandemic did to the workforce, and also more importantly, how little childcare workers were paid even before the pandemic. So this video will explain that all in a little more detail. Let's watch.
The childcare industry lost 350,000 workers at the beginning of the pandemic, about a third of the workforce. Now, 115,000 of those workers still have not returned.
What's the hardest part of your job right now?
Lack of staffing. It's hard to get good quality teachers simply because we can't pay them what they're worth. With COVID, they are risking their lives. Not everyone can do this job because you have to have 100% patience with these children because their behavior is not their fault.
Working at a childcare like this requires specialized training, but the national average pay is just $12 an hour, less than what McDonald's and Amazon distribution centers pay. Polly can't pay her staff more unless she raises tuition. This creates a vicious cycle as workers across all industries are slow to return after pandemic shutdowns.
Most of our workforce is built upon working parents. If they don't have childcare, they can't work.
If they don't have childcare, they can't work. But Republicans like Ron Johnson have been smearing women, workers who haven't been able to go back to the workplace as a result of not being able to afford childcare. Now, he leaves out that second part. They just love to smear Americans as lazy. They love to smear Americans as people who are sitting around looking for a government check. But when you live in a society that relies on the market for everything, when you live in a society where the government has no problem taxing you, in fact, taxing you more than they do wealthy individuals and corporations, and then abandoning you and not offering any type of support, this is what happens. You get a worker shortage. So I'm really sick of them crying about it while simultaneously offering zero support. If these poor corporations and companies are suffering from a labor shortage, maybe they should pay up or shut up. But they're not willing to do that, right? Now, there was a time in this country under FDR during World War II where the government actually had a program, a model that was working really, really well. Men were drafted, they had to go fight in World War II, and the women had to go work in the factories. You know, the companies still needed workers, and since men had to go fight the war, women left the home and went off to factories and did jobs that typically men were doing. And so what happened to all the children who needed childcare? The federal government stepped in and offered incredibly affordable, quality childcare. It's actually been done in this country before, and it's been done well. Maybe we need to rethink allowing everything to be determined by markets, because guess what? Markets, not so efficient sometimes.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.